Hey everyone, this is Brandon Johnson again. I'm so excited to come back with another video. So I'm doing this one today. It's like a special edition. So I talked about doing a whole series and everything on, critical conversations and those things. And so I'm still bringing those guests on. But I thought it was necessary for me to kind of take a step back and to address like Black mental health as a whole. And so like many people have been talking about like COVID's been impacting us, and racial trauma has been impacting us, and like how's that been happening, how we've been being impacted. And quite frankly, like there's still a ton of people that are still trying to wrap their mind around what Black mental health is. And so there's so many people that still don't think this is a thing, and that mental health should be like one collective. It doesn't need to be Black mental health. Even this week has been crazy on social media with me talking about this and really pushing Black mental health. I've been called a racist. I've been saying I've been inciting racism and enabling Black people to feel down and feel oppressed, and it's been really wild. So it's been really interesting like to have these conversations. But like as I think about my colleagues and think about people in this space, and people who are just interested, in Black mental health, like they want to know like, well, what's impacting Black mental health, and like do we people are still so caught up in data, and I'm not playing down data. Like data and numbers are important, but also the experiences of people are important. So we can talk about the discrimination and things that we encounter with law enforcement, but we see what happened in Wisconsin just yesterday. Like those are experiences that you don't always capture in data that is important to the Black experience and why Black mental health is important. So I wanted to take a step back, do a little timeout, and see if I could provide some context around this, and to give some information to people. So if you want to learn more about Black mental health and what's happening, you come to the right spot. So I'm gonna jump into this and make sure that we can really talk through all of these things. And so I'm gonna break this stuff down, talk about some of the numbers really quickly, high level stuff. And so if you're confronted with people who are like, well, why are we doing this? What is so important about Black mental health? You can just literally send them this link. You can throw facts and figures from this link, all those things. And so I'll make sure to do that as we're going along. So I want to jump into, why Black mental health. And so like this is a chart that came from the Mental Health America group. And so they created this infographic to talk about, how many African Americans are dealing with mental health illness. It says around over 4 million African Americans have reported having a mental illness in the past year, which is more in Chicago, Houston, and Philly combined. What I want to say to that is that number is way higher than that if we think about the totality of mental health and of Black people, and us not always being counted in data and in figures, and being a part of the mental health system, so that where these numbers come from, they have an accurate portrayal of kind of what's happening. So I would say that number is smaller even than what we actually experience. So there's been so much talk around COVID and how that's impacting Black people. I want to cite, this is some data from the CDC, which was put into a Washington Post article. So these next couple of slides are from the Washington Post, and so thank them for these figures in the work that they do. But looking at where the COVID-19 coronavirus cases are compared to white cases, Black Americans is about, Latinx is about 3 times that of white cases, and Black around 2.6. So we're experiencing these things and being impacted by COVID at a greater rate, which brings up a number of issues in terms of, grief and loss. And so we're experiencing grief and loss at higher rates, and Latinx and Black people are more likely to have to be working in essential jobs. So they're out in the public interfacing with people, which puts them at greater risk. And so we watch these these divides that happen. So it's important to have that data. Looking at this one also from the Washington Post, we talk about the unintended consequences of COVID. This is one of them where Black people have talked about feeling that other people may think that they're suspicious or worry about them if they're out in public with a mask. Profiling has been around for forever. If you're an African American person or a person of color, you've probably experienced it in your life and been impacted by it. So wearing a mask just adds to that. So, now you're feeling like you'll be more suspicious when you're going into businesses, even when it's required, and even when everybody else around you is wearing a mask. These are some of the things that we encounter. And so let's, dive into that a little more about, well, what is that connection to mental health? Again, CDC data, this is from the Washington Post as well. Anxiety and depression symptoms have more than tripled since 2019. And I just want you to pay attention to those rates with African Americans, looking at how in around January to June 2019 and looking at May and June of 2020, those huge spikes, across the board, but particularly looking at Black Americans and looking at how our anxiety and depression has gone up, and it's gotten worse as a part of COVID and as a part of some of the racial tension that we are exposing now that has been in the forefront of conversation in these last few months. So to talk about that, this again from CDC data from the Washington Post, but looking at the anxiety and the depression rise for Black and Asian Americans after the police killing of George Floyd. So paying attention to the Black mental health line, which is, because this is the topic of our conversation today, looking at that increase, and it points right at the bottom of the chart of when the video started to circulate and this drastic increase for anxiety and depression rates for Black Americans. And so we're watching these videos. There's another video out now of what happened in Wisconsin just yesterday that is now going viral. Just a quick reminder, you do not have to watch it. It is stressful. It is burdensome. You do not have to take in that. But again, these are the things that we see as a result of this. This is brand spanking new CDC data that just came out, looking at the rates of students who attempted suicide during this youth risk behavior survey that we do. And so this is tracking trends from 2009 to 2019. But as you can see, African American adolescents have been attempting suicide at greater rates than Hispanic and white adolescents as well. So we're watching this increase. You can see it there in the chart. So this is a concern with our Black adolescents. And another point of data is that the suicide rate of Black children between the ages of 5 and 12 has also been increasing for quite some time. So we're watching suicide become a major issue in our community. So again, this speaks to why we need to focus on Black mental health in particular as well. And so what's the big picture from this? Disparities are everywhere, and they play out in so many different arenas that impact us on a day-to-day basis, which adds to the cumulative stress that we all deal with just for being African American, and because of the systemic racism and white supremacy issues that we find that are ever prevalent throughout this country. Those things put us at greater risk. We're not at greater risk because we are Black. We are at greater risk because of systems that have been put in place to harm us, that have consistently harmed us for quite some time. And so looking at mental health, so over 58% of Black young adults between the ages of 18 to 25 did not get treatment for their mental illnesses. Looking at healthcare, Black women die more during pregnancy. So even childbirth and bringing a child into this world can be traumatic for Black women, and they may not even make it. Disproportionately, they're impacted by childbirth. Criminal justice, Black men are arrested more and are given time in prison at higher rates. And we also see the disproportionate impact of police shootings and police murders towards our Black people as well. The job market, we are hired less. even when we're qualified. We just don't get the number of jobs that white people do, even when having a degree. So there was a study that came out a few years ago that looked at Black people with an associate's degree were less likely to get hired than a white high school graduate. So we're looking at these disparities. Again, these are things that impact our mental health that are unique to us. Human trafficking is another big one. Our Black girls are more sexualized than other races. And so this leads to them disproportionately being impacted by human trafficking, which is a major issue in our country, especially for our girls and our women. And so getting to this is the last slide I'll put up. And this is my lovely daughter in the corner, just to give some light to this. But because of the racism and discrimination, we have race-based trauma, and we deal with that. And that looks like depressive symptoms and PTSD symptoms. So wanting to avoid things, oversleeping, undersleeping, overeating, undereating, feeling stressed out, anxiety symptoms, all of those things. It even impacts your sleep as well. And so, how we hurt is different. We've been hurt and have experienced these things over centuries. So we have that generational trauma that goes with us. How people see us is different. Our Black boys are seen as criminals. Our Black girls are over sexualized, and those things are in data from Georgetown Law. You can look those things up, and those impact how we're interacted with. How we battle is different. So there are collective assets that we have within our community, within groups, within faith-based organizations, within resiliency and all of those things. We have remarkable resiliency in our community. And so in order for mental health to work with us and work for us, it has to address those assets that we have particularly. We have to speak to the strength and resiliency that we have as a people. It has to work within how we heal through conversation, through community, through spirituality, through learning, all of those things. And we connect very greatly with a person who looks like us and who've had shared experiences that we do. Sometimes it's incredibly difficult to articulate a racial event or a microaggression that bothered you. And so working with a therapist or a doctor that is African American leads to greater success. That's in mental health, that's in physical health as well. And so we are built different. And because we are built different, mental health has to work for us in a unique way, which is why Black mental health is so very important. And so I wanted to do this and address this in this way, because there's so much chatter around Black mental health and what is it, why it's important. And so I wanted to do my part to provide you all with information and feedback. If you get people who challenge you, if you just wanted to know and wanted to learn yourself, all those things are right here. So thank you so much for tuning in. I promise we're going to get back to those critical conversations. I just had to take a step back to really provide information in this space, to give data so people can know what's happening and what's going on. And so again, I appreciate your support, and I promise next week we'll be back with some more guests. So thank you all so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.